I totally, I'm so happy I put that into it, because it was such a fun career.
It is.
And I think like doing the career and then teaching people about that career has gotta be like next level fun.
It is, but I really like that. What they want me to do is, maybe bring the other people who still going to also use my connections.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're open. Okay, I'd like to motion to open the meeting.
Motion. Second.
Vote, aye, okay, the current meeting is now officially open. Okay, so we're gonna do a couple things. Are there any village board updates?
No.
No, okay, cool. Are there any things from the village, Mike, that we know about? Good, okay.
Oh, I may have told you at the last meeting, we are no longer taking public comment and allowing people to come into the Zoom room because of Zoom bombing.
Okay.
Village policy.
I'm 100% for that, if you can't bother to come
People can
here.
still watch it on
Yeah.
YouTube. But any comments either have to come in person, by email, or mail. Or
Yeah. Okay, that's, sounds good.
Like, someone on Zoom is letting me know that you guys are on mute, they can't hear you.
No, we're not muted.
There we go, it's moving. We should be,
It's picking up. It must be on their edge, because I wouldn't see the,
Yeah.
the words. Closed caption.
do you want me to check?
I think it's fine.
Okay, right. Okay, so, we're gonna be talking about 13, what's the name of it? Sorry, I'm spacing on the street, 13 Academy Street. We're gonna do a couple things first. So we just got briefed on the legalness of this, that's why we went to the other room. We are going to basically repeat what basically was said in the back room, so our lovely lawyer here will explain the situation and all the things we talked about.
Sure, so this matter is a use variance, which is unusual for this board. Most variances that are considered are area variances where you're just looking to change one of the dimensional requirements. But for a use variance, it's a higher standard because it's actually allowing a use that wouldn't otherwise be allowed in the district. So for a use variance, in order to grant it, you have to make a finding that 4 things are true. If any one of them is not, if you find any one of them is not true, then you need to deny the use variance. So the 4 factors, one is whether the applicant cannot realize a reasonable return. They're stated in the negative because you have to find it's true that they cannot recognize or realize a reasonable return. And that needs to be demonstrated by competent financial evidence. Number 2, you have to find that the alleged hardship relating to the property is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood. Number 3, you need to find that the requested use variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. And number 4, you have to find that the alleged hardship has not been self-created. And so those are the factors to show whether the zoning is creating a hardship. And if you find that all of those things are true, then you would vote to approve the use variance. When you take a vote, I just want to mention, because there are only 4 members here out of a 5-member board, you would need 3 members to vote in favor in order to approve, at least 3 members in order to approve a use variance. If you take a vote and to approve and to deny, that would be a denial.
Okay, do the owners, Carl and Mary, have any new information you want to give us? Or anything like that?
Yeah, our architect put together some additional information, I think was submitted.
It's in your package. And I have some frankly else here as well, that are in color, if I can give you those. Team is that?
Yeah, we just, I think everybody has a copy. Okay, thank you.
Let me know if I could start talking, or
You can start talking now. Yeah.
So this was really just after our last meeting, really all this is clarifying, I think, much of what was discussed, but trying to put it into a focus. So I went through some of the zoning, so if you look at page 2, this is directly excerpted from the zoning language. So this is the core business district, and if you go to this section that's listed here, what it says is the purpose. This is basically where it describes what the district is. The purpose is a mixed-use district to promote the development of a neighborhood defined by a mix of residential, retail, etc. It also talks about being compatible with the historic character. I call that out because we are, there was some discussion that last time that we were being contrary to the purpose of the district by adding residential, but this states that that is actually the purpose. And also we were highlighting the importance, and if you go to the photos that are included towards the end, like for example, page 6 and page 7, you see that those are historic buildings. So that I think that's relevant to this, to the purpose of what the B2 core business district is asking for. If you go to page 3, this is the question about on-site or off-site street parking. The building that is the principal building on the site is a residential building, always has been, and that's not what's in question here. It is required that they have parking spaces in order to make the accessory residential building, which is in question, that we want to continue to use, but as a dwelling unit. If we were to be required to make that commercial, we would have to take away the off-street parking, which is required. So I'm just highlighting some of the conflict in the zoning that I think last time was being presented as what we should do. And I'm just highlighting the conflict that would also require variances, meaning it's not as of right or not the spirit of the zoning. If you go to the following page 4, this is the zoning table. So there was some discussion that the garage building, which is a garage building, which is a residential use, was actually already commercial and that we would be taking it out of circulation as commercial. It was never permitted or built or altered to be commercial legally. There was never a C of O for that. This actually states that if the only zoning description that I could find to match the way it was being used by the previous owner is a warehouse or storage facility, that would actually require a special permit. And if you go to the following page, which lists the requirements, many of those requirements wouldn't be met. For example, the premises must abut Main Street or North Chestnut, etc. So again, just wanted to flag that a lot of the conversation was about us doing things contradictory or contrary, but actually the way that we maybe misunderstood what was the current situation would be more contrary or contradictory than what we're proposing or asking for permission. And then I just wanted to include some photos addressing the neighborhood as it is. Again, you could see that this is a house, a residential structure with an accessory structure built for or to be accessory to the two-family house. That's on page 7. You can see the location of the off-street parking directly in front of that, and would be, I think, again, not only requiring special permits and quite honestly, in my opinion, not reasonable, but like you would now have to remove off-street parking and put a commercial space like directly adjacent to a two-family house. Page 8 just shows we were doing a lot of conversation about the building across the street, making comparisons, and I hope that this photo shows that these are not comparison. One of them is a garage at the end of the driveway that is currently required and being used. The other is a street front commercial space that is exactly that, on a sidewalk and directly accessible to the sidewalk. It also is currently commercial, and the building we're looking at is currently residential. If you go to page 9, that shows the next door neighbor. So you could see on the top photograph, our principal building to the left, the next door neighbor's garage, which is used as a garage. And then the corner building that the garage belongs to, which is fully residential. That is the corner building on the bottom photograph. If you go to page 10 and 11, you will see other residences that are on Academy Street on the block, but also in the B2 core district.
The yellow house isn't on Academy Street.
The driveway is,
It's on Chestnut, that's the corner
Yeah.
of Chestnut and Academy.
and it
It's on the
has,
other side of the street.
Correct.
Yeah, it's nowhere near it.
I'm sorry, this is the driveway from Academy Street showing that building with a ADU structure in the back. Accessible from Academy Street, that's where the driveway is. And in the bottom picture below that is the next property, also residential, also right away to Academy Street. And I think without, I won't speak to the return part of it, the financial part of it, but I think this, and I'm happy to go through why I think this, but I think addresses the bottom three items.
And I mean, we provided financial information at the last meeting. We're not making any money on the property as it sits right now. We've lost money in the last year. We're currently still losing money this year. This has been 5 months of this year so far. And almost the entire year of last year, not having a tenant in there. Had no income for that unit. And it's been difficult because it's an old building. It needs maintenance. It needs to have upkeep. It needs proper repairs. I don't know how to fund it if I don't have income that's at least covering all my expenses. And right now, we don't have that.
Okay, so is that all the information you need to give us?
Yes.
Okay, you can go sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll go through the four things one at a time, discuss them among ourselves and vote. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And just to make sure everyone's clear, the reason for the use variance is that a residential use would not be allowed on the first floor in this location unless it was accessible for people with disabilities.
It does specifically say if the first floor is even more important because it has to be first floor. All right, gotcha.
All right, so let's just go through the first thing and that.
So the first one is whether the applicant cannot realize a reasonable return, provided that the lack of return is substantial as demonstrated by competent financial evidence.
Anyone want to take a stab at it first? Cody?
Well, I think, yeah, I guess it's kind of nice. A lot in my opinion.
Well, let's pick on Dustin. Dustin is the real estate agent.
Still haven't seen it listed anymore. That's kind of.
You still haven't seen it listed
I mean,
anywhere.
if it's not on Zillow or Facebook or anything that's kind of. That's kind of a problem for me.
Yeah, so we went through the finances. They are making money. They're not making as much money as they would like to.
So the debate,
Is return on investment and like what you should do. Now, the way I read the law is you have to be losing money and they're not. They also haven't raised their rents in a long time, which is problematic if you're trying to make money.
That's not true.
Um,
And we clarified that last time, because you did the same thing last time, and it's not true.
okay. So we went through the finances, they made money. They're still making money. They do have a roof expense that's coming up, but that's if you roofs last 30 years. So you're talking $1,000 a year. That's not really, roof of that size would be about 30 grand. Let's double it. That's $2,000 a year. They're still making money. So the major problem is that this residential area was designed purposely to have a mix of residential, retail, service, provincial, civil, cultural uses. And if it's all residential, it turns from a town that people want to walk and want to do things into just a suburb of New York City. The thing that makes New Paltz unique is people walking around doing businesses. The only public comment we got on this I'm going off on a tangent.
Yeah, we should
Sorry.
probably stick to.
We should just
reasonable
talk to the
return.
money, okay,
Yeah.
so how many, so,
Yeah, I have comments on what you're talking
yeah,
about.
let's go on there, I did it, I'm sorry,
Hold.
fortunately I saw it, all right, so. Are we supposed to vote on each one of these things?
Well,
or-
let's finish discussing it.
Okay,
first.
all right,
Yeah.
okay, so that's the money, thing. Does anyone else have anything else?
On the quick answer, we've talked about this for months now. I kind of disagree. I believe that their numbers, can be justified as, an unreasonable return on the investment. So. And they gave us documentation that when I look at, that's the way I see it. So.
That's fair. Dustin?
Definitely be making more money, right? Like, how much is actually being lost?
Yeah, I don't know the value of it on either front, right?
Yeah, and I would never even try to rent this out if I was going in for an application. Once it's rented out and you have a lease, that becomes a problem, right? Because now it's, you say it was storage, say you were renting it out for somebody, you know, and you were getting a storage fee for $200 a month.
Which they didn't rent out for storage previously.
Yeah. That would be kind of a conflict and it would be a problem, so I wouldn't wanna do that either. They could raise the rent. And then have somebody go, okay, well. Now, I'm moving on out of here because I can get a better deal someplace else, because that place hasn't been upkept, right? So that's also a problem. I don't know.
So you don't need to vote on each one, but yeah, it'd be good to see where everyone is.
You got anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with Cody in the sense that I don't think they're making, a reasonable return on the property.
Okay.
Points have been mentioned here.
I think some of that plays into the condition, so
Yeah.
then that's the debate that I believe you're somewhat held up on, is that. If it was in better condition, then likely they would be, but they can't get it in better condition because they're not. So, which some of what I'm talking about now will come back around and self-created.
Yeah, I mean, the condition probably plays a huge part in that rate of return, right? If you don't have. If there needs to be work on it, and you don't have the money to do that, right, you can't necessarily charge what maybe you would if it was in a better condition. And so that does affect the bottom line, but given what we have in here, I don't feel like they're making, at this point, I don't feel like they're making a reasonable return on it.
And I think some of that played, like the financial type move, I can't remember if it's number 2 or number 3, but. With that, it like barely fits into commercial. Like the only way it could be rented in commercial is this very like specific need that's almost useless, narrow usage.
Very narrow.
And even of that, there's options that are probably better.
Yeah,
Like unless you happen to be a restaurant across the street that needs extra storage. Like, I don't know what else it could be used for as commercial. And I think that that's, in my mind, that's a factor in that. It's not a return, like the return isn't there because it really doesn't fit into the way that the code is forcing it to be.
Well, you guys talked, watched the last meeting, and that was what we talked about, it's unique.
Which that's
a unique property and, presenting something that we're not seeing anywhere else, and so. And I know you guys spoke of that in terms of how, what sort of precedent would be set if this was approved and so.
Yeah, that's gonna be question number.
Yeah, no, I know.
I know they.
Yeah, we
kind
just
of
split it.
honed in on
I
it.
stopped talking about question 2 and everyone else went right in. Let's talk about
Well,
question.
because I think that, the financial side, the
It's all
financial
personal.
aspect of question
Right.
2
Yeah,
is the weight of why I answer such on question 1.
Okay. No, question number 2.
2 is whether the alleged hardship relating to the property in question is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood.
Yeah, I'd say this is, I would be willing to say this is unique.
This is unique.
Yeah, I would be willing to say that. I don't think there's other things that are similar to this.
And well, and, yeah, like Robin mentioned that I spoke on last time was. Not only is it unique, I think it's unique in, not like to the neighborhood, it's unique in the bigger picture that it honestly doesn't fit into. The way the code makes it fit. So if we leave it alone, it still barely fits in the code because it's a weird situation. So that's why I seem to think that the uniqueness of it is kind of what makes it. Like if you walk up to this building without knowing any of the coding, just to the area, and you're like, what is this allowed to be used for? It would be hard to determine that. Because it's a unique structure, like, is it a garage, is it commercial storage, does it need to be a commercial storefront? Like, that's weird, like, that wouldn't work. It couldn't be, you know, handicap accessible in that fashion either. So like, it's just this building that fell through the cracks for me.
Robert?
I mean, I know, I agree, I mean, it's like, when I was listening to last month's meeting, found myself nodding along, because I, checked out the property and felt like that was very true.
Okay. Dustin?
Really, this can only be used for storage, right? This is a storage.
I mean, I think,
What else do
I think it would make a really nice wood shop. And then I think it would make a really nice, like, craftsman, kind of like someone who's making stuff. Like, and it could be like a psychologist office, it could be something that not a lot of people are going to. So, thinking like law office, psychologist, psychiatrist, someone who's having people come in, not a lot of people at a time. It would.
Literally, those are all very unique. One
Yeah,
call, the owner.
but if you go down Main Street, if you go down Main Street, there's a dozen businesses like that. So I mean, it's not like, that's not unheard of, and it's not, I mean, usually like, like a legal office, those kinds of things, like an architect, it could be.
But it could really only be any of those things.
To really only fit two parking
If it's
spaces, right?
God,
Yeah, it would have to be something like, yeah. So I mean, it's to say like, there's nothing you can do with it is silly, because you can always do something with something, you can always do it. I mean, that's like an almost impossible standard.
yeah,
Because, people with enough creativity can make anything happen. And I mean, I also think too, like, as we transition to more remote work, that could be a good place to have a kind of like working space, worker space. But yeah, it's not ideal for a normal strip mall business.
yeah, it's also unique because it is. Like, if you go around it,
Yeah.
around the house is residential.
Mhm.
The garage to the house is commercial. The house next to it is residential and its backyard backs up to. A split that's residential upstairs, commercial on the first floor,
Yeah,
like. And none of those have garages. That are like. Directed to be commercial. I don't think there's. Unless I'd have to drive through the neighborhood carefully to like state this, but I don't feel like there's other garages that are. Being held to this business,
there's not a lot of garages in the neighborhood. It's not
kind of what I mean.
Although the next door neighbor has one.
It kind of
Yeah.
seems like it was. I don't know, not necessarily planned that way to like. The B2 to fit in the random garage on this one block.
Yeah.
I think that's getting us into number 3,
Okay.
which is whether the requested use variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood.
I mean, I don't think it will, I mean, I understand the point about trying to have that mixed use rate, control, you want it welcoming. Just the size and the structure, the size and what we're talking about and where it's located, I don't necessarily think it's. Changing the character of the neighborhood, we're altering the essential character of the neighborhood, I think. having it as, just a residential use, right, just an apartment use, I don't think is gonna drastically, that was my thought.
I think where my head goes for that is that if there were something in the states and without taking the numbers and the other factors into where it could be commercial. Could be up in the plus column for the neighborhood, but being residential isn't in the minus column. Cause there's, like, I guess that's kind of where I'm like landing on it, is there's how, like, it is, the property is residential. Like, it's just one more,
But that's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing because it's not gonna affect the neighborhood as long as the other neighbors aren't like being like, oh, we should do the same thing because we'll make more money as residential, and then the whole downtown area becomes residential.
which I think that's why the unique thing is so important.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm saying, I don't.
It's like,
believe there's anyone
like,
else-
where do you draw the line? And so, but I think the conversation we're having is like, where's the line drawn? And
Right.
like, you know, do we, like, is it not? Like, where do we, because the reality is once a place loses its commercial value and becomes residential, it's not coming back.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
it's
it's
just,
easier.
because it's easier and I make more money, so like, you know, and that's where.
Yeah, no one's fighting the other way.
No, absolutely not in New Paltz, maybe in other places, but not in New Paltz.
No, but I mean, last meeting, you mentioned, Corey, like the idea of it is that this is residential, it's not like somebody's taking, even one of those. Home has been altered, is now a commercial business, right, inside that. This has been a residence, it's always been a residence, and so.
Right.
Making it different, you know. In that regard.
Yeah, across the street where there's a garage, like it's adjacent to a commercial. Like this is on the property with residential, there's the next door neighbor is a residential that has a garage that's also just allowed to be their garage. Like, that's where I get held up on, like, I don't know why. Yeah, I guess it's. It's always, all of this is kind of the debate of like, what's your line of financial hardship, right? Like, what's your line of unique, like, because these have to be determined. Yeah, but they're, you know, gray, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
This is a tough one.
We would also like improve the neighborhood, because then you have like a brown, like a red kind of eyesore, we actually make one individual property look 1,000 times better, and hopefully, you know.
That's an interesting point, so like,
Like,
yeah, the variance is allowing them to take the financial. Investment in fixing the actual structure.
Yeah.
As opposed to.
It would almost like beautify the neighborhood piece by piece, you know what I mean, like. But then also, where do you draw the line? Is everyone gonna try to do that, and
I think it'll be incumbent upon us to make those decisions the next time it comes around,
Mhm.
with those circumstances.
And
Yeah,
that's,
that's why it's important that you make the findings of what makes it unique, you know, so it's not a precedent. for The
Right.
next person
And-
will have a different situation.
and that's kind of my stand, I can't think of anything else that I know of where they could come to me and I wouldn't be able to justify why they're different. Like,
I you walk by that place, I would, like, to me, not knowing it, is that I'm just walking by, I'm like, oh, that's a garage, and you could make that. Get rid of the garage, just make it, you know, an apartment, you know, or a couple of apartments, like. That's how I look at it without necessarily knowing the history or, you know, law, I mean, when you look at it.
you definitely don't walk by and go, well, that should be a store. Like,
Nah.
that wouldn't make any sense if you were to walk past it, and,
yeah.
you know.
Like, I understand, like, it could be like a craftsperson shop, like a potter or something of that nature, yeah.
Correct.
I get that, yeah,
I
but,
mean, I just look at it like as, you know, if we have to save the garages because they're so important for creativity and amazingness.
Mhm.
You've seen my garage. All right, I think, what's the
And
fun?
number 4 is whether the alleged hardship has not been self-created.
I think Cody loves this one.
right, and this is a weird one because normally make the point that the decision to own the property means that you, like, I don't have this problem. I didn't invest in a property that had a weird garage on the side of it. So to that state, like, that would be my normal argument, but in this case, I really feel like this building fell through the code loopholes. Like, when they made that code, they weren't taking into consideration this one weird garage. It just, the only way that it fit when they finished it was, oh, okay, it's commercial. And it was just never really bothered with. And so.
I mean, that is our job when we get right down to it, is to look at these unique situations
because
and try to make it work. Oh, verdict.
Right, so in this case, I also do not believe that this is self-created.
Robert,
I agree, just given the situation, the circumstances and in the context of everything for this particular piece of property and what they're doing, I don't believe it's a.
Dustin, anything?
No, it was self-created.
All right, so, let's vote. Start with Dustin.
Well,
So make a motion to
you're gonna let
approve
me
or deny.
for one or the other,
Yep.
the two draft resolutions.
Okay, I think we're leaning towards approval at this point.
Yeah, so we either have to vote to approve the approval or deny the
We'll
denial.
start with the approval, if that works, we'll vote for the. Okay, so we're gonna go for the.
Sean, I just want to ask Emily a quick question. So the findings that were just discussed tonight,
We will write those into the resolution.
you write those into the resolution.
Yes.
From what
Yeah.
I want to make sure they.
And I will
Thank
sign them
you,
on Monday, by Friday, as soon as you get them.
They are-
As long as that gets in the decision.
They are
Yeah.
relatively in line.
They are, but I'll just
Change.
edit it a little, yeah.
Okay, so, so I motion that we, have a vote to approve. This zoning change,
Thanks.
variance, okay. So Dustin, you first.
No, I need a second. Or are you making the motion?
Are you making-
I made the motion.
Alright, or second.
Okay, good, okay, all right.
So I'm going approve or deny?
Yes, approve or deny.
Approve.
Approve. Approve. Okay, I'm gonna, might as well join in, I'll approve. So we'll get that, and, you will write it up. Once you get it, just give me a call, I will come and sign it, you can pick it up from Mike by
Probably
Monday, Tuesday, let's put Monday, Tuesday. Is that good for you guys? There you go, they're set.
Thank you very much.
No worries, no worries. Okay, all right, that one's done.
But I talked about that, could I have, a while.
Yeah, that was a lot of talking. All right. Okay, so Woodland Ponds, you're up. I think we have some some stuff here.
Yeah.
You might wanna, we didn't look at this.
Should probably show.
I looked them online, but I need a paper, so.
The old school.
The bottom obviously is the site
Yeah, I
plan
want
set.
crinkly. The noise is have the effect on.
Plus the plants, they smell good too.
I'm going to be sharing it.
Why don't you wait until we get to be talking about it, so you're not
Yes.
just staring at that.
No problem.
Is everyone else here for this event? Okay, just so you know, there's no public comment today. I don't want you to, okay, everyone. Cool, all right.
So just for the boards, there's a revised zoning determination in your packet with the new variances,
Yes,
and I did percentages for you.
thank you. I saw that. I appreciate it. Okay. So. So we're,
All this stuff down there too.
yeah, I looked at it,
So can I just, opening that up, I just want to procedurally mention that this is a revised design. It hasn't gone back to the planning board yet. And the planning board did begin the seeker process by declaring its intent to be lead agency. So I think this is for, discussion, but we're not intending to move ahead with a public hearing or anything yet.
Understood.
Right, I'm just making sure everybody knows where we're at.
And we're with the book planning board next week
Right.
to further the discussion with them.
Yeah, you guys can,
We're good?
we can start talking about, we'll listen and look at the plans, I feel. So we don't distract you too much.
Just a reminder, I'm Dave Robert from the Director of Capital Projects and Campus Development at William Pond. As you know, we're a non-for-profit. We provide senior housing and life care to the community. And as you probably also know, there's a huge demand for senior housing within our community and also beyond, and for housing in general. And it's our mission to respond.
So you guys are a nonprofit, right?
That's right.
So, do you respect other nonprofits, like when you cause them expenses? So like, are you giving lots of money to the EMS of New Paltz to pick up residents from you guys every day, and since you're tax exempt, you don't pay any taxes to the village? So you guys have a plan to sort of help them out? I mean, they're a nonprofit, they're really good, please let me finish. They're a really good organization, and like, you cost them a lot of money, like a lot of money, like a lot. How many residents get picked up a week there by them, would you estimate?
I don't know that, and I don't know that that's under the purview of.
No, you said you were a nonprofit, so when
Yeah.
you said you were a nonprofit, you made it sound like you were like doing really good things, and I appreciate nonprofits
Yeah.
when they do good work. But if one nonprofit was to then destroy another nonprofit, that's not really nice to
Well,
do.
we do pay a pilot, and through that,
So you give a pilot directly to them, or is that through the town?
no, it's through the town,
Okay.
through the village.
So you don't give money directly to,
I honestly don't know
Yeah.
the answer to that question, but I do know is that we have an excellent relationship with EMS and also with the fire department and other emergency services. And we do good work. We have a very good reputation within actually in the country, and also in New York State. So they like there that we provide. We're very proud of it. Now, since we first were here, we've dramatically reduced the scale of the building. You'll see that it's now 2 stories above parking across the entire development. It was mostly 3 stories above over parking, so we've reduced that significantly. And accordingly, the variances that we're seeking have been greatly reduced too.
Did the compensation of the last floor make a bigger footprint?
It's very slightly bigger. I don't even think it's 5%, is it?
Yeah, it's about 8,000 square feet.
Yeah, so, well, not bigger.
Yeah, the footprint got a little bigger by about 8,000.
So,
But overall square footage went down because we lost the floors.
so the total number of units went down from 95 to 81 units. Overall, the project density is low. It's about 4 residential units per acre. So the project isn't crammed into the available land. And on the contrary, the fact we're here in front of the ZBA because we prioritize maintaining the buffer between the 2-story building and the residential neighborhood to the south. And so that's essentially why we're here. We could, not have the parking underneath the building. We discussed that in the last meeting. The effect of that would be to, lose that buffer on to the south, and we'd have to accommodate that parking on above ground.
In the expansion of the 8,000 square feet to make that happen, how did it close down those buffers?
It moved it by about 6 or 7 feet.
6 or 7 feet?
It's not that far. Yeah, we shifted the building slightly north. We accommodated both of them.
This building, these both.
It's just that,
The same.
the same footprint and the same, just drop the story.
Just drop the
So
store.
both
So
of
you,
you-
yeah, so that's where you lost and you were able to add.
We also lost over there as
Right,
well.
well, we were able to
Gain a
get
little
it
cover.
covered back.
Yep, a couple of units there by making the ends a T. If you look at it, they're slightly wider on
south end.
Yeah. Right, so yeah, so you, instead of it just ending, you split it, now you have rooms on double lane, yeah. Also corners.
Correct. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, on both buildings. Yeah, or both ones.
So I'll hand over to Ken to continue. Your presentation.
Hold on.
Yeah, it's there.
Just there.
So as David said, we decreased the units by about 15%. So from 95 to 81. We did confirm we are 100% putting solar on the roofs
I saw that.
of the buildings. None of it affects the height of the buildings.
Yeah.
Correct.
Fair.
On the southern facing exposures, we are gonna put it on the front face. It doesn't make sense to put it on the east-west for productivity on the solar panel, but it will go inside inside the bathtub, so to speak, and then on the southern facing side. We did reduce all the buildings to 2 stories. The distance, as you said, from the Commons building to the southern property line went from, I think, 158 to 152, but 40 feet is only required in that area. Yes, the residential. The hybrid south doesn't change to what it was before when you met. We have worked with Walker Valley Land Trust. There's about 42% of the property is going into the land trust, the open space for them. It's 7.4 acres of the 17.
Is going into the.
Correct.
In their, yeah, we can circle back, but in their letter, there was they wrote a letter and there was something that confused me.
So it was 2. There was an initial letter. We had originally worked with them in the original plan that when we were before you, the access drive from the Commons to the hybrids was following the existing road.
Okay,
That existing road goes through their current easement, open space on the main part. We thought that would be the logical place to redo the connection on the existing road.
right,
They do not want it touching that road. So they want it where the historical
okay.
road was supposed to go, which is just south of the main parcel's property where we show it now.
Okay, yeah, I think that's
So
probably, there's a
net-
sentence in here that says the revised plan removes all proposed improvements. And
Correct.
I'm like, isn't that a negative? But they didn't want those.
Correct. So we
They
removed
wanted-
everything out of their original open
I
space.
was like, I don't know how to take this.
Understood. We removed everything from out of their open space on the north.
The removal was what they want.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And one of the other things that we have worked through and have confirmed with both Woodland Pond, we've talked to the town, we've talked to police, we've talked to fire, we've done as much as we can. And that is part of the application in front of the planning board is, George Danskin is going to be closed to, through traffic. It will be only emergency access only, gated on both ends of just south of the development at Lent Drive and then also north on the other end. It would not be access to residents, it would not be access to anybody but fire emergency personnel to go through. It's also being reduced to only 14 feet, so it's not going, it's gonna be essentially a fire lane. So that it can't be turned into anything else or worried about that.
What, I'm sorry, I'm not the amount of acres that we were talking about with,
Walker Valley,
Valley Trust.
7.4.
Are those situated in a way to where they're useful, accessible?
So, it is in the site plan, if you look into one of the site plan sheets, but I can just, talk through it for you if you go back to sheet. The wetlands in the middle
Yeah,
is a cohesive area that lets for animals north to south corridor. There's also some land that it will be on the south, which is our, once we plant it in the vegetative buffer, we're gonna give some of that land, some of that area that will go to them as well.
Right,
To
after.
further,
right,
so to further maintain that, I will always be open and wooded. And there is some land up on the north of this picture by the Woodland Pond, as the sign is up there.
Yeah.
That will all go, which is the current area that, salamanders that people wanna help protect, and we do as well.
so the land is useful in the function of the wetland, it's not accessible as far as like the trail system.
It isn't, so Walker Valley Land Trust did not want trails on the northern parcel. That's part of the reason why they didn't want us to do anything in
So
there.
this will be specifically, that's,
Open natural space.
right, thank you.
So, with our variances, as we heard from the board the last time, the buildings themselves have been designed from first floor to roof to be 30 feet and 2 stories. So they meet the intent of 30 feet, but the way the code is written, it has average grade. So when you look at that, the average grade shall be computed by averaging the low grade obtained on the 4 corners of the principal structure, including the lowest. So because we're putting parking underneath, we have to take the account for the one section of building that is lower to allow parking to get underneath into the average grade. So that's where our variances come from. Their buildings are 30 feet tall from finished floor. The variances are because we're putting parking
When you
underneath.
say finished floor, are you talking about the first story or the bottom of the garage?
First story. The garage is considered a cellar,
Okay.
so
you're
that
saying-
doesn't count towards stories or floors per the code.
But it does count
It
toward
does
the height.
count.
It does count towards height because we
Right.
have to count the lowest elevation along the side of the building.
You're doing 2 stories and how tall is the garage interior?
It's 12 feet from basement to first floor to allow the structure.
So on the side, that is entrance, that the garage will entrance.
Correct.
Not code, not any of this. If I walk up to the building and look at it, I'm looking at a 42-foot tall.
In one section, because if you look at so building wing A,
Yeah.
if you look at the cross sections that we have further in the drawing.
Right.
The grades are pulled along the whole building, and they drop down by the garages.
What point is, that's,
You'll see the 2 garage entries on the wing. Swing around so I can-
on this side,
The yellow.
on the wet
Right.
Elevations.
Yeah, we have, right, from that point, because we have access to this point is the only section that is.
and then this steps out.
Goes right up and this is all grade around here, flush with the first floor.
And this is the road that's only
Emergency. access.
emergency and access to the parking detail.
Correct. This side of this whole building is only 30 feet on this side. The only section here is because we have a garage here and you have to come in lower here for emergency access into the garage. This section here facing us is the only section that is tall.
Right, so from the road entrance out of North Bud,
You would only see 30
this
feet
is 30 feet.
and that is 30 feet.
This is higher visually.
If you were
facing-
standing
facing
correct.
the woods.
Correct, facing the woods. And we did that on purpose to minimize the impacts of the visual side of it.
Is George Jenkins Way, is that a town road or is that?
Private road.
It's a private road, so you'll be doing all the maintenance of that?
We do now.
Territory and all that stuff?
Yeah, we do now as well. Right, keep going. The revised proposal tries to balance the approach between density and the visual intensity while preserving as much of the environment as we've tried by keeping parking underneath. We've maintained substantial setbacks above the required setbacks to the properties. We've enhanced the landscaping buffer, which I want to talk to a little bit. The relief that we're requesting is driven by the code requirement for average grade height for putting parking underneath. Not because the building itself is just taller. It's driven by the code section of that.
What was the 30-foot finished with the parapet? and
Yep.
the roof? What was it for when it was 3 stories?
We actually have that comparison.
Yeah, I saw it.
On this.
Right, so originally, it was 18 feet 6 that we were looking for, and
So an extra 12.
12.
For an additional.
Correct. Right. Which was a story, if you think about it, it's 12 feet, which is 1 story.
Right, your floor and.
1 floor to ceiling, 1 level. Almost each one of them is about the same, 12 feet.
And then the roof. Yeah,
Yep. Well, that 3rd story included that roof in that.
yeah.
Because
But yeah. the addition.
So if we keep going, so one of the things that we have changed is the parking on the north end of the building. There were 19 land bank parking spaces that due to the adjustment, we've removed those. But because of the shape of the buildings and the slight change, we were able to drain some more parking inside. We still meet the code for parking requirements. Less exterior, correct. Between the both, we still have the appropriate parking requirements per the town code for the planning board purposes.
But with the garage, it reduces the amount of outdoor parking.
Correct. Trying to reduce that hard surface outside as well. So, you know, here's just a slide of the parking inside the building. We're required to have 68 overall for the property. We've got 75. So we're still above the requirement. We have a few outdoor spaces, which are 6, which are guest related spaces and ADA outside the building. The majority of it all will be interior and contained within the building.
In employees?
Inside as well.
Inside as well.
Yep. So one of the important things that we've included in these plans and started to put through is the plantings that are proposed are intended to be less formal in nature and more clusters of trees and shrubs to mimic the surrounding conditions. We didn't want it to be a formal, like corporate landscape type thing. There are areas that have that in the courtyards and things like that, but the majority of the exterior landscaping, specifically the plantings to the south, are intended to supplement and buffer the existing vegetation. Our plan on the south side of the property really focuses on about a 3/4 acre area that we could develop with surface parking that we're choosing not to by putting the parking underneath the building and enhancing that existing buffer. We're looking at taking deciduous and evergreen trees, mixing it with the existing trees. We don't want to cut trees to put trees. So the landscape architect has specifically picked species in there that can go out, walk the site, look at the trees, look at the vegetation and decide this cluster, we can put 3 or 4 evergreens in here, we can put this in here and move them around to create that understory. You'll see further on, we do have a pretty substantial upstory. It's the lower story of the trees that is pretty much scraggly brush and not really cohesive. So we wanted to try and create that full story from top to bottom in the landscaping.
Well, I mean, the upper canopy is harder to make from scratch.
Correct. So trying to preserve that by not cutting trees to put a smaller tree that'll eventually get bigger.
Right.
But also trying to remove some of the vines, the other things that are prohibiting them from growing. And being able to put in, you know, they're all deciduous, there's no evergreen down low. So putting in a human size evergreens that can create a lower buffer to your short side, but will eventually grow into the canopy, into the trees. But that's already there, that upper canopy. So this just represents, you know, the distances we talked about. It's about 192 feet to the property line to the southwest, and then 152 feet to the home directly south of us.
Yeah, and we didn't have that, that's last time when we discussed the property along there, because there was a garage, so that's new.
Actually, these are the same. It's when we get to the hybrid, we didn't know, but we did find that. We did wet and shoot it. Yep. So we now have that distance for you. Through, so as you see here, the buildings are, this is wing A cross section, is 30 feet from that finished floor, the first floor to the roof picture, which includes the solar, which includes everything. The average grade, which brings us down on the one side, that creates an average grade around it, creates the need for the variance of 6 feet 2 inches on that building.
How far down below the sunken parapet in the roof is the finished top of the solar panel? Are they close to flush with that, or?
They're below it. I don't know the exact elevation, but I know they are below.
But, I mean, I pointed this out last time, you guys have a unique situation where the tops of your buildings are viewed from
Up above.
Beloved Ridge.
Well, and the beauty of this spot is where the main campus, as we've talked about, you can see quite clearly from up on the ridge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because everything's been removed and they started in the middle.
Yeah.
We're really keeping the high canopy that's just south of us across George Danskin, which is equal to, or if not taller than the height of the buildings that we're proposing. So we're trying to nestle it in the middle of it as best we can.
You own that property? that's
That
on
is
the other
not,
side?
that is the part of the preserve
Oh, okay.
on that side, so it'll be forever wild.
Well, yeah, and the choice in finishes speaks to that also.
Correct. It was an intentional choice to make it as residential as possible and less, correct, and less commercial, so to speak.
Have you thought about correcting the mistakes that you're fixing here on the older buildings?
Well, because of it's the mass of the existing buildings, because they're 4 stories, but of course they also step up up the grade. So that when you are on the lower part of it, they actually go up almost 6 stories, or they go up 6 stories plus roof. So that's why.
You just spoke exactly to why we're taking it so seriously.
Yeah, that's why when you stand up at Mohawk,
Yeah.
you see it, but also I think it's exaggerated because all the car parking that's around it as well.
Right,
Like you really see this large white building.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
paint
Yeah.
is amazing stuff.
Well-
And you can turn white buildings into other colors. It's wild. I've done it to my house. It used to be this really red, ugly color, and I painted it a nice gray, so it sort of fit into the local community because my neighbors hated the way my house looked. And, you know, if I want my neighbors to like me, and, you know, one of the things that, you know, since you're doing this huge, how much is this project?
This development here, we're not sure. I don't know.
As a professional architect, what's your best guess, plus or minus $10 million?
I think the entire thing, it might be 120 million.
Okay, so maybe you should think about, you know, as well as making this a beautiful project, also maybe correcting some of the glaring white obvious issues that can be fixed with paint to blend it into the community. If the, it's a nonprofit, you're trying to fit in with your neighbors, you're trying to do a good job, you're trying to make everything beautiful. And if you're admitting that the other thing was a mistake, then maybe you should try to fix it. And tell us about how you're fixing it, and then we'll be much happier.
Sure.
Sorry.
So we had, you had seen these cross sections before. We've adjusted their heights to meet the proposed design of 2 stories instead of 3 stories. And through this, if you flip to the next one, you'll see this is what I spoke to on William Building A. The bottom side on the right is the only section you will see the full basement
Yeah.
as it goes around, and that faces primarily the trees.
Right.
On that side. As you get to what would be the south elevation, if we switch around.
So we also dropped one variance
Correct.
because with the 30 feet now on the one that the grade isn't an issue.
The commons building, this
Yeah.
center piece just meets code.
Right, so because it was also a
Correct.
floor higher, so
Yep.
by cutting all that down,
Correct.
and it doesn't have the grade factor, right?
Correct. And we also got rid of the story variances that were needed because of losing the story above.
Right,
So it removed the variances of story and height.
additional story.
We're only down to that height.
Did you get rid of that tower?
That is a architectural feature.
Yeah.
That is exempt in the code.
Okay. I sort of thought it was cool, but you asked
Yeah,
for
it's
like
still
a
there.
huge
It is
thing.
still
I was
there.
like, I was like,
Yeah, so that,
They wanted to maintain that. It falls under a section, I think it's called cupola, that is exempt from the height.
yeah, okay.
the bell towers.
Yeah.
Yeah, where is it? Oh, we can't see it in any of the pictures, that's right.
Uh,
Okay, no,
you'll
because I
see
was
it.
sort of like, that didn't bother me.
You'll see as we flip through, moving through, this is wing B. The section you see here that is of the garage faces the other building A.
Right,
And the other piece to the north, which you see on the top of the page, is the garage to the north, which faces the woods.
And you brought the picture that up to highlight.
Correct.
Yeah,
So if you take to the next one, that is the side that would face, the bottom is the side that would face, the main road, not George Sanskin,
yeah, but
it's North Putt. And then the wing B, the one you see on the right, would be the side that faces the residence to the south,
and the entrance to this, we'd be coming basically from,
the north.
yeah.
So, which is on the one, Amy showed just. There's your cupola.
Okay, cool.
In the center building.
Yeah, cause that's still lower than
Correct.
cause it's on yeah.
So here we've just, as we did before, we've restructured the renderings to show what we're proposing and how we're kind of fitting it in. It does show, so kind of they're all below the parapet height, so you wouldn't see them. The angles, they're all facing dead south. So from up above, I think you would get a linear line if you saw any of it. But there's a portion that's gonna be protected by that roof anyway at that corner. Here's the view as you were coming in from Woodland proper towards the middle. As you see, these are only 2 stories, 30 feet tall. They would look just like that. On the one to the left, as you see it, that's wing B, that's the garage. That's the one section that is 30. But on the immediate side, that is the woods that would face North Putt, is down to 30 feet tall.
So, sorry, this is a little off topic that just popped into my mind here. This is on the same campus and like as far as a whole goes, with the other building, and it's gonna be new and fresh and nicer. Are a number of these gonna get filled by repositioning from the older ones first?
No,
Yeah, no, and
Actually, conversation that residents are having, like, I wanna move into the new one when it's done, and then we'll be backfilling the old one.
no, I mean, we expected there's, I mean, we're trying to create as much, choice and selection, in the new, and the new campus. But, we have to actually pre-sell 70% of the units before we can, start, development. And, that's a prerequisite from the, DOH and Department of Homeland that oversees our DFS. And so we envision that these will be new residents, and the marketing for that will start, probably January next year, I think.
and the wait list that is currently.
Yeah, we have a long wait list.
So those are the first ones that are gonna have access. So this is kind of that formalized landscape of the courtyard area that is between Commons A and B, with that main central area. Here is what, it would look like coming in Lent Drive into the project. We've kind of roughed out where the fence or gate would be. It's a little further back. It's hard to show in the rendering like this, but there would be a fence gate. We're working out the details with the fire department and police department as to exactly what it looks like. But it would only be open to emergency access. So this shows the supplemental plantings in between with the existing trees that are there now. So as we move over to the hybrids buildings, for the most part, the only change here was the hybrid south. We dropped a story. That was the really tall one the last time. One of the things that we did do, if you look at the bottom of the project on the bottom right, is we did play with walls to create tiered effect of the grading around it, so it doesn't have a tall appearance. It meets the requirements of having over 8 feet of land around it that we can plant, then we tear down and plant, and we go down to the lower graded plant.
Right, so, yeah, in some fashion, that's a changes the height, right?
Correct.
If it were just graded,
It would look
Yeah.
very tall.
yeah, and change the numbers and
Yep.
height of the variance, but
The building to the north, grades are almost flush all the way around. That way that variance is slightly less. we've created basically, if you look, there's two walls, a tunnel down to get into the basement for the parking. So that's why when you calculate the average grade, it's only the width of the driveway, not a width of an entire wall around. Correct. So this dropped 8 units on the hybrid south, by dropping that third story down to 2. And again, here for our landscaping, we've done quite a bit of cluster landscaping, all natural plants, looking to create a creative connection for the vegetation, both north to south and east to west there, so that it doesn't feel like it's a commercial area stuck in a residential landscape or a wooded landscape, more like, it feels like wooded landscape with a building in between. The southern portion of that, does get populated quite heavily and layered in its parking, because that is cleared to the property line to allow for stormwater and grading and stuff in there. But it is heavily graded and landscaped between our building and that property line, that 40-foot property line. Hit it one more time, because it's a flying. So it doesn't change on the home to the north, it's still 99 feet to the property line, 178 feet. We did, as we talked about before, we knew it was 40 feet to the property line, but we didn't know where the barn is. So we went out, we surveyed the barn, that puts the barn about 184 feet on the one side of the building and 172 on the other side.
172.
Yeah, it's the
So,
closest. You can't see it, it's behind that text.
And is that 75 to the property?
75 to the property line, not that farthest area.
Yeah, so it's another almost 100 feet.
Correct.
Beyond the property.
And that is all vegetated
And that
currently.
all but the slivers that has to be cleared and landscaped into terrace to.
Yes. Yeah, that area is cleared.
As far as like making a statement is like visible from other properties. From behind that barn, that will be a pretty apparent.
Well, it'll tear up, yes, but even at the building is at grade,
Is
so.
the land, the tiering like blocked?
There is a gravity wall
Yeah.
that's proposed there, but instead of doing a tall wall of one section out, we're doing a wall out. I think it's 5 or 6 feet, then we come out again and we go down another 5 or 6 feet so that we can terrace the plantings.
There's like, is it like?
It's graded in the line.
Blocks or is it,
It's in the site plan.
an actual stone? or-
Yeah, we haven't gotten into the specifics of what stone it is, but I suspect it's gonna be a concrete gravity wall. Something like mesa block or a unilock, not the small unilock, but the typical 2 foot tall.
Use the mafia blocks.
No, we won't use those. Do one more. So again, the buildings are 30 feet. This is hybrid north from the finished floor to the roof. When you calculate average grade, this one brings us down 3 foot 5 inches below.
The barn that we were just discussing, the house is farther south on that.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what.
Correct. It's a fairly large barn too.
Yeah,
And it is further beyond that,
yeah.
the house itself. The next one. The hybrid south, this one is the same 30 feet, but it does, because of gravity, the grades getting into the garage brings that average grade down 6 feet, 5 inches for the variance that we're requesting for that building to the south. Some parcel cross sections, as we did before, these are kind of showing how they're fitting into the landscape and tiered into the grades, as well as what you would be seeing based on the existing trees and whatnot that are around it.
To get that roof line, with the sunken, are the roof portions, is that A12?
I believe it is. I would have to get you that answer if that's something that's important. I know we were playing with that.
Well, it's only important in conjunction with how far the solar panels are below it.
Okay,
Right?
yeah,
Because in theory, all of these could be, just randomly guessing, looking at this from the side, all of these variances could be dropped another foot if it was 612, but then our solar panels sticking out. plus does 612 change something, you know what I mean, like aesthetically, or like that's just. The only reason that popped in my mind is we've had that scenario before where like trying to hide something was a part of the reason why we're like, okay, so it's better for it to be a foot taller if it covers up something that would be more of an eyesore versus that's.
Yeah, we also, I know that our architects look at it because we also don't want to end up with it so slight that we don't end up seeing the roof. You know, you want to be able to see a roof as part of the architecture.
Yeah.
And so it was a fine tuning between having sufficient height to screen the panels and.
Yeah, that
I
appearance
understand.
that it's a pitched roof,
Yeah.
not the flat roof that you would normally see. And,
Right.
and to David's point, we did go back and forth with them on the elevations and the heights and trying to, you know, keep it as minimal as possible, make sure we met
Yeah.
that 30 foot.
And I honestly, I think I'm assuming that this is what you landed on going back and forth. I
Yeah.
think it's probably the right look. I just
No, it's a great question.
and as far as details go, knowing the pitch and also how big the panels are below it is just more information.
Right.
On my decision making process.
I believe the pitch on those gables actually reduced a little bit in order to make sure that they didn't go.
Yeah, the gables look 612, but
Yes.
but the roof lines to the parapet look 812, and that's why I'm asking.
And we'll get the information for you.
Yeah, thank you.
If you swap through, you can see here on Hybrid North, the only area that is lower than the third is right where we go in for that garage. Everything else is at grade all the way around. A little more, the south, that is the side west faces the wetlands. That's there, so that wouldn't be a visible side either, and that was because of an access component getting out that side for the garage. And this would be the north facing down below, so looking at it as you were driving down North, but you wouldn't really see that, you would see the left side of the building and you would see the east side of the building, which would be 2 stories. Keep walking through. So that there, you can see the tiered wall on the other side.
How close, so obviously with the tiered wall and like playing with that, as far as it's shorter than it was, so its roof line now is lower than the roof line of the other as far as like a bird flies. So how close to the grade that we're debating is the road? Like when I'm on the road, am I essentially at ground, like this close to the same grade as like the entrance of the
Yes.
building? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, see that.
Right,
yeah,
okay, that's fine. Thank you.
yeah, that's
Look at the draw.
correct, that's the north. And if you switch to the next one, you'll see that south. So when you're driving, heading into town on South Butt or North Butt, that's what the view you would see.
Yeah, you can see here, that's the retaining wall right there.
I
Here,
get that.
When you come up this way, it's
You're
not
gonna-
gonna, it's gonna look pretty,
You're gonna
Yeah.
see that retaining wall, yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's gonna add.
Well,
Can you go
that's
back to that retaining wall
my
picture?
question of if that,
Yeah.
if that could.
I mean, that's-
debated As like a natural stone versus.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I mean, we can look at the faces of the wall.
You just did, it looks like you put so much effort into making
Yeah.
the building blend into the environment,
No.
and then that wall is kind of.
Well, and I'm just gonna say, you know, these are renders, they don't do that level
Of
for
course,
that. We
yeah.
haven't talked that far.
Yeah.
We've done multiple of the gravity block walls where we can get different faces, cobblestone face, there's lots and lots of options. You can get colors with them now to have them tinted gray, so they don't look that bland, white concrete.
Obviously, we have like a ton of different things. to-
Right.
I
But that's a great thing that we can look into the color and,
spoke relatively straightforward last time.
Yeah.
It seems like you guys made notes on all of that, and that's great. So that's just me doing that now.
yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
That, as far as like when we go through, I can think of how that would affect my answering the
Mhm.
factors
Right.
of trying to make the decision.
Okay, great. Appreciate the feedback.
You go too far?
Nope, well, now you did. So, you know, again, this is just kind of a view of where it sits to the house on Lent Drive. And elevation wise, there's quite a large natural buffer of things between it. Yeah, that's the house on that drive,
Right.
so.
That was a specific request from the residents, so that we, you know.
What is the, yeah,
They wanted to see the relationship of their house to the hybrid south.
Right.
And same with the view down Lent Drive, when we met with, some of the neighbors, they requested that view, and so they provided that. And I think it's really.
yeah, is it possible to have the numbers from hybrid south to Lent Drive house and then?
Distances?
Yeah. Yeah, cause looking at that as a triangulation, right, so if they're,
You mean this distance here?
well,
I can't even read it there.
Yeah.
yes, I think that's probably the distance, but.
Yeah.
It's probably in there,
380, maybe?
on one of the larger plans.
Was it 380?
Because what's
Possibly
tricky here is that. Since that property line runs at an angle, right?
Correct, it's not.
It looks like you can't be like, oh, well, where's the back of their property line? Like for their backyard, cause it doesn't really do that, it like slashes diagonally.
Yeah, and we can approximately show it.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. And I can see it here.
Right.
It looks like the house on.
No, I think
is-
that's over here. Yeah, because this is that retaining.
No, this is the house on. Lent.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
okay.
talking
Oh,
about,
okay.
this is like 300.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, yeah, all right.
Because
Yeah, you're
this
right.
is the wetland
Yeah,
area, right?
yeah.
So their property line probably falls before. I shouldn't assume anything.
Yeah,
It falls, I believe, in the middle
Of
of the wetland,
Of the wetland.
because there's a wetland that heads to our south.
So then that's the property line between this residence and the one with the
Correct.
barns.
And we'll show it, like I said.
Yeah, that,
I can pull it up and look for that.
yeah.
right,
I mean,
because this is relatively close to your southern property. That,
Correct.
like the actual.
It's real close to the
Yeah.
southern property. And that's why, as part of our development, even though we could go up to 40 feet from that property line and clear to it to develop and then replant, we tried to stay as far away. So we're 152 feet.
Yeah.
3 times the required buffer that's over there.
Oh, that's their driveway, right? Yeah. So their driveway runs down your property.
Correct.
Okay, so that does give me the line right there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's all good.
So you can see the line is here, where it kind of falls here.
Yeah,
I don't know where the separation between the Lent Drive property and the North Butt property is by the barn, but we can get that onto a plan, just so you.
and if it's in the wetlands.
It's in the middle of it, correct,
Yeah.
and the good part is, like you said, it's in the wetlands, so therefore no one's taking any of that, that's always gonna remain as a natural
The
vegetation.
visual buffer from their backyard in theory is natural protected wetland.
So really, that's where we're at, we just thank you for your time, for letting us update you on what we've changed.
Well, it's always better to give us information so we can digest it. And understand it and come up with ideas that can help out the community. How many of the houses and apartments in here are designed for low income housing?
They're not, because Woodland Pond is a life care community, which means that we don't actually, we provide a life care, or it's actually continuing care as an insurance. And we're actually exempt from providing low income housing by the code.
Okay, so you're not gonna help out the community at all in any way, like local people who would like to look? Because I look at this place, any of you guys afford this place?
I hear it's very expensive.
Yeah, I'm not in that income bracket. How are you, Cody?
I just want to encourage the board to stick with the.
Sorry,
the
yep, you're right.
CPA factors.
Okay,
just
sorry,
so we-
yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good, yeah.
Anyway, okay.
Obviously, I can't speak for the board, but as a whole, but I would just like to say that like I said, I spoke pretty bluntly about what I thought were some pretty obvious problems, and it seems like you guys really attempted to address some of those, and so. At least for me, those are numbers to say.
Yeah,
I literally had a list of like. This is a problem for me, I don't like how this looks, like, this doesn't make any sense, this isn't justifiable, and several of those.
Yeah.
You guys have made changes directly to those, appreciate that.
the only thing I don't like is you're using a retaining wall and just because you're using a retaining wall and it's actually making that building pretty massive on, you know, you're like, oh, it's a retaining wall, so it doesn't count, and I sort of understand that, but that's like,
Yeah,
you know,
you're almost saying.
you're almost-
It's taller than-
yeah, you're making a really tall building there, and I'm not sure if that's, I'm not sure if that's 100% necessary, or if you can like figure out a way to make that look better, but, and I don't even know if it's, I'm gonna have to look at the property a little bit and like sort of walk that area to see like if it's even important, because it, you know, just because of where it's pointing, you know, it depends on who's next to it, obviously.
Well, you had mentioned 8 feet for planting, is that something that you found because like, just for how big it needs to be able to beautify, or does that play into the factor of calculating the grade?
Both.
Okay,
Both. We wanted enough of the space to be able to be maintainable,
right,
but enough to meet, I think the code requires 6 feet. It's the grade maintained within 6 feet of the building. And we went out a few more feet, knowing that we could put a few plants in there and still be able to get through, have access for maintenance, so it doesn't become a wild area that is unmaintainable outside the building, you know what I
So
mean?
it's only 8 feet from the building to the
To
thing?
the top of the wall, the first wall. Then there's a second wall tiered down.
How is that, so if there's a fire there, how are people gonna access the second story from that side of the building? Like, how is that, like, you're basically making a cliff on the side of this.
Well, it's from a fire perspective, they're fully sprinkled units. The two sides of the building and the egress out are on corners, not the backside, because that would be an individual residence room.
Yeah,
And at best, that's a 30-foot ladder to the window. Most of them are 2-story windows, you know what I mean? Which is consistent with the residential home. There isn't any specific fire apparatus that would be needed or anything like that.
yeah, it would be.
And
I don't know how hard this is to obtain, but it would be helpful to hear that from someone in the fire industry.
well, we'll be,
you know,
front of the-
it's
it'll be planning board.
Right, so
I'm just like looking, I'm just like thinking of like,
cause if that second tier, you know, you get your 8 feet,
Mhm.
like, is that enough? Ideally to function around as far as like to serve that.
8 feet's not really, 8 feet's
Well,
not.
but I mean, if 6 is what
The code
said,
Yeah.
it's not really.
And like you said, we're in front of the planning board. We'll have those discussions with the fire department. They'll have a chance to review it. If we have to tweak, grades in there a little bit.
Right, you have space to
We have
draw
some
that
space.
out, a couple more feet,
Yeah.
if they would, like, we wanna be able to have our ladders on
Right.
top of the, whatever.
And typically, they wouldn't want to be that close to the building anyway.
Right. It's
You know what I mean? That, other than the ladder access, and you might can speak to that potentially, Rob, but most of the time, it's usually the ladders come out 8 to 10 feet from the base of the building when they put them on.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is like, how are you,
And then that would be on that second tier wall. That would be another accessible tier along that whole side. And we could also look at the way the corridors are set. I don't 100% know that exactly, but I know they're end units and corridor units. So typically, that's where people are coming in and out of for life safety components.
Well, yeah, I guess I'm just under the assumption that that's where they will weigh in.
Yeah,
I mean, that's an interesting kind of thing. I mean, you could put a retaining wall around any building and you put like,
And
if it's 8 feet, if it's 6 feet, you could have a 6 feet with a 10-foot retaining wall. You have another one.
And then the
You
grade.
could have like you could have like a wedding cake and make the building
Like
200 feet tall and be
Adds,
completely
like,
a code. Yeah, that's seems like, an interesting,
and on that side, one of the
Well, I mean,
questions.
it depends if you consider it a loophole, because it's part of the structure. So like, where you're drawing your line from the base of the structure. If you're, you could make an argument that this,
I don't think for code, the landscaping is part of the structure.
it is if you took it away, the building falls down.
The retaining wall wouldn't hold up the building.
Well, no, yeah,
The retaining wall wasn't there, the building would fall down.
No, it wouldn't, because the basement is below, the cellar is below.
Yeah, but it would,
yeah, the grade is.
the grade would be,
The grade would fall down, but the building.
yeah, the building would.
And then the way you're changing.
And then you're paying.
Correct. The reality is the building itself. has
No, it's just
12
an
foot.
interesting kind of
Yeah.
thing, like where does
I've never had that mat put in front of me either.
that might be something we want to discuss at, like, another conversation, because that's a weird way to get around any building height you want. You just make a wedding cake.
Yeah, I would have to look up the specific as far as like the wording of how the grade is averaged.
Yeah.
Yeah, because once again, it's just dealing with the natural grade of the ground, right?
Right,
So
right.
The front, at the.
So, like, if
At the north side of that building and the east side, it's at grade,
Right,
right? And it's because it's falling,
so I guess
southwest.
if you think about like. If the garage were essentially, if the foundation wall were allowed to be exposed on the outside, almost like a walkout.
Right, right.
And you didn't build this retaining wall, we'd be talking about it. Correct. Right, but I think that's what it's full of, it's okay, so you back up, you cover it up with dirt, and now it changes where the grade is.
But it's
But that's,
visually, it didn't change anything. Yeah.
but around any building, even if we took grades and we took the walls out and just graded out and graded down, it's still going to have that same
Right,
appearance. We felt in here that doing it where you put tiered walls, you could hide it in the landscape and break up that height better.
because in theory, they could come out to the edge of the property line and just bring up. the
Correct.
Soil and not have a.
And, but that would
retaining
look,
wall, then it's-
but that would look beautiful. I mean, that would look really.
Well,
nice.
but it would road.
Well,
Well, you wouldn't even face the road, it would be to the back of a barn,
Right, but I mean,
because that's what's there.
Yeah, like I said, I don't even know if this is a necessary conversation.
Right, understood.
I'm just looking at that being like, that's interesting. Okay,
All right.
is that it?
How visible is this place gonna be at night? I'm just thinking of like light pollution. If this was going on in my backyard, that would kind of drive me crazy. Is there?
So the whole project is dark sky compliant. So all of the lights are proposed downlighting. The planning board will review all that as part of their planning process.
You don't actually light the building.
Correct.
It's not like the lights. Only where the world, the building are lighted in that sense.
No, we have a courtyard and stuff like that.
They're all low level lights, so they're all 10, 12 foot poles. They're not tall, giant parking lot poles that you would see to light the roads.
Buildings.
Correct.
But it's still gonna give off like a glow.
Yeah, well, with the dark sky compliant, it should.
The dark sky compliant requires the lights to be completely down shielded and pointing down. You will get some, correct,
And no more than a certain amount of.
foot candles,
You have to maintain a minimum.
correct, for safety.
Yeah. Yep. I was like, this was going on in my backyard and I saw that, oh boy, would I not be happy about this, right? So, but as long as you are complying, though,
Correct.
that's great.
But we have a number of residents who are concerned about this in facility. And so, they were looking at the proposal, they were, investigating turning off all the lights around the building in the car parking at night. And so we actually tried that for a couple of nights. So, we have this resident population that's really sustainably minded. And are looking at these things all the time. So she's turned off all the lights and then the response was, wow, it's really dark.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that technology has changed so much, and we've talked about.
I wonder if your neighbors notice.
About the ability to set certain lights to be on all the time and set certain lights to be motion sensor. So there may be areas as we get out towards into the main campus where those lights can dim.
Yeah.
Down to a very low level that almost is hard to see, but as you walk up to it, comes back up to the standard level. To
The
reduce,
college has that all over the
Right.
place, as
So-
well, down the lights are dimming.
right.
It's actually really cool.
It's fun on a bike, because sometimes you can hit the center.
We have a project where they're off and you can do that as you're driving down and just see boom, 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 as you drive down.
From off.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're working with Woodland on that for that exact reason. Okay. Yeah, they're very conscious of all of it, which has been great.
Yeah, very great.
All right. Anything else?
All right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
I motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Vote. Aye. Okay, the meeting's over.